Welcome back. I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out exactly where I want to start, and I've decided that I want to start with reference models because they just hit so many things inside of the system. So we're diving into contacts because, again, they touch almost everything in the system. But first, I owe you a would you rather. Would you rather have bug wings or bat wings? Go ahead and think on that for me while we discuss contacts. For most companies, contacts are one of their most valuable assets. Who we buy from, who we sell to, and whoever else we work with is key to our business, and we need to keep that information safe and organized. There are tons of different ways to store our contacts. We can store them on our phone. You may have a rolodex. You may have a box like this to store business cards. If we stick our contacts in ODOO though, we're able to see all the information that we want to see and organize it in whatever way we want to see it. And we're also able to see anything that our contacts are related to, which is a ton of different stuff. So using this older system as an example, I'm going to walk you through the basics of contacts in ODOO. And yes, contacts are fairly straightforward, but there are a few places where I've seen people get tripped up, so make sure to stay through the whole video. So in ODOO, all of our contacts live in the Contacts app. Each card that we see here is a record, and it's basically the same thing as us having a business card or one of these index cards with their contact information on it. But clicking into one of these, you'll see that there's much more information here than I could ever fit on an index card. I have the general information for this contact, but I can also see anything that I have in the system that relates to them in these smart buttons here. There's even more than just fits right here. We can also see that there's a structure here to join contacts to each other. Let's go ahead and go back out to illustrate this a little bit better. So we're going to go to a company card at this point. ODOO recognizes that for Azure Interior, there are people that we interact with for different things. Companies also may have different addresses where we send items, whether they're invoices or physical goods. So in our old system, I would have to either have several cards or one card with a ton of different information on it to try and replicate this. This really shines when we look at transactions where we can say, okay, the customer is Deco Addict, the company, but I want to send the invoice to Beth Evans and I want to deliver the product to Audrey Peterson. So make sure that you structure your contacts properly to allow this functionality to really work well. There are a couple different guidelines that I follow to make sure that this is set up properly, and we'll go through those in a second here. In general, if we have another address or another email or another phone number, we want to create another contact here. Now hold on for a second here, guys. Want to be perfectly clear. We can add additional fields for additional phone numbers if we want to. If it's the same person, that's perfectly fine. Just don't stick them in that main phone number field. You want to have a single phone number there. Now you could say, hey, I could just put a comma here and it's still just as readable for anybody. Same thing with the email address. Just stick a comma and add another email address. Don't do that. Please don't do that. It actually makes it so much harder to use all the functionality inside of ODOO. It'll trip you up. I promise you it will. As for the rest of the fields here, fairly straightforward, hopefully. I mean, you know how to put in an address. If you have a tax ID for the contact, you know where that should go. But other places that I see people get tripped up are with these many-to-ones here for the state and for the country. You can't just type whatever you want here. In a lot of systems you can, but there is a predefined list that yes, you can add to here, but you need to make sure, especially if you're importing records, which we will go over later, how to do that. But if you're importing records, you need to make sure that the state and the country already exist inside of ODOO. Just another quick thing that I've seen people do, especially when importing old data, is they'll just say, well, this is a text field right here. I can put whatever I want. So they'll say 4557 De Silva Street, Fremont, California, 94538. That's another no-no. Don't do that. There's other information in these tabs below, but not everybody is going to use the apps that these pertain to, so we'll go over those in future videos. So how else does ODOO compare to our little note card way of storing contacts previously? Well, one way you might say that's not as helpful is this is pretty open-ended. I can write whatever I want right here. Whereas ODOO, it looks like only has certain fields. I mean, I've got Jimmy Jones right here, and I've got notes on here that he loves Kung Pao chicken and definitely don't mention football. Well, here's the beauty of ODOO. Certainly I could come into internal notes and just type all those things right here. That's one way to do it. But what if I specifically, for each of my customers, want to detail their favorite food? And I also want to be able to say, don't mention these things. These are sore subjects. Well, in ODOO, I can actually go to Studio and I can add a field for each of these so that we have a specific container for that information. So let's put this in and we'll throw this in as a text field. And we're going to call this field favorite food. Now we have a specific place to put the customer's favorite food. And we can do this really for anything. And no, this isn't just limited to simple text fields. We can attach files, images, we can do selections. There's so much we can do here. Oh, and going back to not mentioning football, there's actually a great functionality inside of ODOO that not a lot of people use that pops up a warning or even blocks a purchase order, sales order, or inventory transfer based on our contact. If you want me to detail that, go ahead and drop that in the comments below. Beyond this, we can create activities, things that we need to do related to this contact. We can log notes, that's internal communication about this contact, or we can send a message to that contact and keep that conversation going inside of ODOO. So what's the best part of having this inside of ODOO? I'm not the only one with this information now. I can share all of this information with anyone in my company. If there's a conversation that happens relative to this contact, anybody else can see it, or at least anybody that I want to see it. So that's the basics of contacts in ODOO. I still like the tactical nature of being able to write on a note card, but it's hard to beat the functionality of sharing this information with everyone and having this contact card linked to anything else that I've done with that person. Next, we're going to talk about the easiest way to get contact information from an old system into ODOO, and that's through an import. We're going to go through in depth how to do that properly and what you need to watch out for there. As always, please drop any further questions in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Oh, and I would choose bug wings.